Greetings, brothers and sisters. Brother Crockett here with another short video about this week's reading. As you know, these chapters contain the words of King Benjamin, a true servant leader and saint. Remember, the Nephites are Israelites and are keeping the law of Moses. It is interesting that we're told all the people gathered with their tents facing towards the temple. This picture shows how Israel during Moses' time was instructed to set up their tents in families or tribes around the tabernacle. Many scholars believe these Nephites in Mosiah 2 are celebrating Yom Kippur, or the Day of Covering, a day symbolically preparing Israel for when Christ would come and atone for our sins. On this day, the high priest would slay the sacrificial lamb outside the temple's courtyard, draining the lamb's blood into a basin or bowl. The high priest would then enter into the courtyard and pass through the temple, ultimately arriving at and entering into the Holy of Holies, the place where God himself can come. This holiest of places is quite significant as well as symbolic. Within this sacred space, we find the throne of God. The top part, like a lid, is known as the mercy seat. God sits here to judge Israel. At the final judgment, I, for one, will be begging for a lot of mercy. The bottom portion is a box or an ark. Inside the ark are the tablets containing the 10 Commandments, the ones Moses threw down and broke when he saw Israel dancing around the golden calf. To clarify this symbol for us, the ark contains the broken law. Putting all these symbols together creates a beautiful imagery which can be quite instructive. Someday, all Israel will come before God and be judged. Approaching his throne, we will see God waiting to judge us on how well we've kept his laws and covenants. The broken tablets within the ark serve as a painful reminder that we have a poor track record in this area. We will want mercy. We'll want it more than anything. And indeed, the top of the throne is the mercy seat. But before we stand up and cheer, we are reminded of this truth. Mercy cannot rob justice. At this point in the temple session, the high priest, remember he's holding a bowl of lamb's blood, takes the blood and symbolically pours it over the mercy seat. This symbolic act points us to the atonement of Christ. His atonement can cover or pay for the demands of justice. The atonement of Jesus Christ can only be applied or covered for people in special circumstances. We're going to take a look at them and see where we fit. Hopefully you're finding yourself feeling a bit anxious. How can we have access to the power of Christ's atonement? Well, the law of Moses teaches us who the atonement of Christ will cover and who it will not cover. First, the atonement covers those that are ignorant, those who do not understand or have access to God's laws. The second category is children. Children, as you know, are automatically covered by the atonement of Christ. So who does Christ's atonement not cover? Those who rebel. The sin of rebellion. And the definition for rebellion is to willingly act against that which has been accepted as a rule. Have you or I ever rebelled? Well, of course. But that puts us in a bad spot, because those types of sins aren't covered. This information does not bring happy thoughts. At the judgment seat, we'll want the mercy provided through Christ's atonement. But for that to happen, we need to be in one of two categories, either ignorant or children. Otherwise, our only option is justice, and we stand guilty of rebellion. Well, we cannot go back and unlearn the gospel of Christ. It's too late for that. And we're no longer children. So what can we do? At this point, would you take a moment and pause this video, read Mosiah 4, 1 through 2. In the middle of his speech, King Benjamin wants to know how the Nephites are feeling. As you read, look for answers to these questions. After you've answered them, restart the video. Can you relate to the Nephites now? For the first time, they've realized the awful condition they're in. They, like us, had been taught the gospel, and they knew God's laws. But during certain times in their life, they became rebellious little stinkpots. Without the merciful intervention of Christ, We will never answer the demands of justice alone, by ourselves. We are not ignorant of God's laws, nor are we children, so the situation is critical. But in Mosiah 5, the people say something curious. We are willing to enter into a covenant. To which King Benjamin replies, because of this covenant, you shall be called the children of Christ. King Benjamin knew what you now know. We cannot unlearn God's laws, but we can become children again, Christ's children, through covenants. Sometime soon, read Mosiah 3:19. If you've understood what we've gone over so far, that verse will never mean the same thing again. Brothers and sisters, if I can summarize, someday we will stand before God to be judged. Our lives will be open before God. The lives we've led and the laws we've broken will be on display, and we will want mercy more than we've ever wanted it before. Christ's atonement satisfies the demands of justice, and there's only one way for us to access the atonement, and that's to become children, Christ's children, through covenant. It would also be wrong of me not to highlight the Book of Mormon here. We're so blessed to have it among us. The Bible holds a place of preeminence in our religion, but any doctrine found within it is displayed more abundantly, beautifully, and more clearly inside the Book of Mormon.